Today I have 7 MFM hard drives hanging out on the bench, and there's actually an 8th one over there that I really need to get to work on. Normally when I film my videos I kind of cycle through about 4 large projects, but every once in a while you just gotta set everything down for a bit and do a bit of housekeeping, and that's what today is. Today is a housekeeping day. And speaking of housekeeping, there's something pretty special happening next month. On October 25th, the Large Scale Systems Museum up in Pittsburgh is running a fundraiser. And the LSSM is one of my favorite places in the country. It's a pretty wild collection of large-scale systems, and most of them work. You can get hands-on with them, and Dave McGuire and the whole staff there are pretty awesome. And that's why I'm pretty excited to be flying up to Pittsburgh next month to hang out with them on the day of this fundraiser. And all the proceeds from this fundraiser are going to go towards keeping the museum up and running, because keeping large-scale systems like that running is neither easy nor cheap. So this is going to be massive for keeping that museum awesome. So if you have the means and you have the time next month, come hang out with us on October 25th in Pittsburgh. But if not, don't worry, there's plenty of other opportunities that we'll have a chance to hang out. I think the most recent one that's going to happen is going to be in February for VCF SoCal. I am planning, I think, to go to that one. But with that out of the way, what are we doing here today? Well, these 7 hard drives are not actually the primary reason for the video. The 8th MFM hard drive is hanging out in my DEC Rainbow, and it has a really unique image on it because you can boot into DOS or CP/M, which means it has an install of both on there. And I have never seen a copy of that image anywhere on the internet. So if that hard drive suddenly decided to stop working, I would be in a pretty tough place. So we need to pull that hard drive out and get a clean backup of it before it does decide to suddenly stop working. But while I've got all of the stuff set up to do that, I might as well pull out all of the other MFM drives that I have and give them a go, because I have no idea if these work, if they don't work, if they have data on them, or if they don't. So how am I going to do this? Well, I'm going to use this little guy right here. This is the MFM emulator built by David Gesswein, and it's pretty awesome. This one was donated by Jim over on the Discord. It's not his real name, that's just his username. So Jim, if you're watching, thank you so much. This is going to be an absolute lifesaver. I did work with one of these in a previous episode with AJ over at Forgotten Machines. I'm wearing his shirt to kind of channel his energy if I can. But we used his Gesswein MFM emulator because at the time I didn't have the SD card in this one. I didn't have an operating system. This whole thing was totally unset up. So I spent a weekend, a couple of weekends ago, to get this thing fully set up, and I think I've got it. This should be pretty exciting. I love spinning Rust, and any day I get to spend playing around with it is a good day. So let's get started. I'm terrible at Linux, which is hilarious because this laptop has Linux on it, which I'm running a screen capture on, and the BeagleBone is also running Linux. So I'm in a purely Linux environment and I have absolutely no clue what I'm doing. But I've got a little cheat sheet here that I kind of figured out. But the first thing we need to do is we need to find the SD card on the BeagleBone. And I think we can do that with LSBLK here. And the 29.7 gigabyte MMC BLK0P1 is the one that I think we want. So we want to do sudo mount, and then we want to type all that out. So I believe what this does is it mounts the SD card to the folder in media called SDC. I hope. Let's do an LSBLK again to verify that it's been mounted. And yeah, there we go. We can see the 29.7 gigabyte thing on the bottom there is mounted to media/SDC. All right, we're making good progress already. So we need to change folders into the MFM folder here. So I'm going to go cd/opt/mfm/mfm. Yep, we're in the right folder now. So now we want to do a /setup _mfm_read. So essentially we're just setting up the Gesswein emulator here to read MFM drives. And I think we're ready to actually start doing that. So we need to power up the MFM drive here. I've got a little Molex connector here. We'll go ahead and plug it in. It should spin up. Oh, that does not sound good. That has a very noisy bearing in it. but it hasn't spun down yet. Maybe it'll work. So let's give it a shot here. We'll do a, oof, God, that's loud. Okay, we'll do a ./MFM_read, and then we're gonna do a -A. And look at that. Okay, so it found the drive RPM, it found a matching format, found two matching formats, Intel ISBC 214.512B and a Tektronix 6130. That's interesting. I don't know what happens if it finds two good formats, but it's counting up through the cylinders. That's fantastic news. So we're gonna try and get a clean image off of this as soon as it finishes counting up through the cylinders here and finishes the analyze pass. And there we go, number of cylinders, 1024, 71.3 megabytes, and then we have a whole big nasty command line, but I don't particularly want to retype all that command line, so we're going to type it again. We're going to do a ./MFM_read, and then we're going to do a -A and a -T, and the -T is telling it that we want to get a raw transitions file of the drive, and then we have to give that file a name. So we're going to do a .. and we're going to call this ST4097 1.raw. And we'll just go. And it's going to redo the analyze, so it's going to count up through the cylinders again because, well, it has to figure out that command line, and then it's going to automatically type that command line for us after the analyze finishes. Boy, that bearing sounds real bad. I don't know what we can do about that. That is nasty though. All right, we got to the end, 1024, 71.3 megabytes, and now it punched in the command line for us and it's counting up through the cylinders, pulling data off of this drive. So now it's just wait and see. That's it. It's pretty exciting that it's actually pulling data off of it, despite the fact that it sounds so ridiculously bad. All right, looks like it came to the end. It did find a bad cylinder. It said retries, failed cylinder, 1017, head 2. But it did some ECC corrections. We can see down here it says one sector corrected with ECC. So I think we're okay to spin the drive down, which is good because it sounds horrendous. So we'll go ahead and unplug it. And that's gonna spin down and give that bearing a little bit of a rest. Because the format was recognized, let's go ahead and translate that format to a binary image here. So we'll do a ./MFM_util. Whew, that finally spun down. I can hear again. And then we'll do a /T, and then we'll do a .. and the file name was ST4097 1.raw, and then we want to do a -E, and we're going to put that as ./ST4097_1.bin. And then if we just hit enter, and so what this is going to do is it's going to go through and read that raw transitions file that we just pulled off of this drive and change it into a binary file in the format of the format that it understood. So which was like the Intel ISBC or whatever it was. And then so at the end of this, we should have a binary file that we can like open up and read in HXD. And if there's any like strings in there, we should be able to see the ASCII data. But in the meantime, I'm gonna put a label on it that says good data, bad bearing. Both the raw file and the binary file have been copied over to the SD card. So I'm gonna switch over to the next drive and see if we can read it. This is off to a pretty good start, aside from the bearing noise. Let me grab the next drive. We'll just speed run the rest of the drives here, which was actually pretty fast because more than half didn't work. I'd plug them in and they'd either spin up, then spin down again, or spin up and never give a good index or ready signal. The only other drive that actually worked fine was another ST4097, but it's squealing too, just like the first one. However, it is reading well. So if you're looking for an MFM drive, my recommendation is to get an ST4097, assuming we can figure out how to get rid of that squealing, that is. After getting all the spare drives I have tested, it's time to grab the MFM drive out of the rainbow. I'll just hoist the heavy monitor out of the way, then unlatch and lift the top right off. And after disconnecting the cables, the hard drive slides right out the front, easy peasy. With it hooked up to the Gesswein emulator, we'll do a quick analyze, and it found two different formats, interestingly, a WD3B1 and a Tandy 16B. I'm not sure what that means, but since we're going to be getting a raw transitions file, it shouldn't matter. Seems it found a total of 4 heads, and after it gets done counting through the cylinders, it seems it found a total of 306 cylinders and says this is a 10 megabyte drive. The drive itself says ST412 on the side, which if we look at the manual for that drive is indeed a 4-head, 306 cylinder, 10 megabyte drive. So the Gessweinator is spot on. Now we'll tell it to grab the raw transitions image, and this is going to take a little while. And it all seems to go buttery smooth until we get to cylinder 305. Then we get a massive amount of errors saying expected sector size 512, header says 256, cylinder 305, head 0, sector whatever. Finally, we get a message that says bad sectors on cylinder 305, head 3, and it lists all of them. That's the last head and last cylinder, so most likely there's some weird deck formatting shenanigans going on. And after a bit of poking around, let's run the utility to get a binary file. After punching in the correct command string, after 3 tries, it starts counting up through the cylinders. We get that same collection of error messages at the end though. But actually, I think that's good news. That means that even though it doesn't recognize what is going on with cylinder 305, it faithfully copied the raw flux transitions. If we ever have to move this image over to a new drive, those transitions should move over faithfully too. Well, what did we find out? The Gesswein emulator worked absolutely brilliantly. This thing is fantastic as soon as you can wrap your head around how to properly use it. And also, I find it a little hilarious that the 2 drives that sounded the absolute worst, they're the only 2 that worked. These other 5 did not work at all, with the exception of the Rainbow hard drive. The Rainbow hard drive spun up, sounded perfect, and I was able to pull all the data off of it. So I want to make sure that the binary file that we got from the Rainbow is like legitimately a good binary file. And I've got it here on the laptop. I just need to jump into the correct folder. So we're going to do a CD for change directory, and we're going to go to elec and then binary. And then if I do an ls, we can see that I've got the 3 binary files from the only 3 drives that we're able to read in here: Rainbow, ST4097-1, and ST4097-2. However, just looking at the raw binary data isn't really going to help me much. I wouldn't know what I was looking at, and I wouldn't be able to figure out if it was good or bad. However, there is ASCII data hiding out inside those binary files because the machine needs to print ASCII data on the screen. So if we can extract just that ASCII data and list it up in a text file, we should be able to tell if we have a good or bad dump of whatever the binary file is. It turns out in Linux, if you get it, there's a nice little utility that can help with that called strings. And we're going to do it with the rainbow.bin file first, and we want to output it to rainbow.txt. And if I hit that, it just immediately finishes. And if I do an ls again, we can see we have a new file called rainbow.txt hiding out in here. And so I want to see what's in that file. So I'm going to do a cat rainbow.txt, and I want it to limit the amount of text that it shows to a page basis. So we're going to do less as a operator on the end of that. And yeah, there we go. Already we can see really fascinating stuff. It says Rainbow, CPM1, MS-DOS1, CPM8680, MS-DOS, CPM86, Rainbow hard disk startup menu, press the up arrow, then press do to start from the selected partition. These are all the things that you see when you boot this machine off of the hard drive. That's really awesome. But looking through this, yeah, it looks like we got a legitimately good copy of the data that was on that drive. That is awesome. So let's see what's in the next file. So let's run strings again. We'll do strings on ST4097_1.bin. And we want the output to be ST4097_1.txt. And we'll just go ahead and hit enter on that. And that was a much bigger file. Makes sense. I'm pretty sure that the Rainbow drive is like 10 megabytes and these guys are like 70 megabytes. And then we'll do cat ST4097_1.txt and we'll say less. And all right, okay, there's some interesting stuff going on here. Wombat right up at the very top. This is the Wombat controller that's used in PDP-11 systems. And that makes sense. I got these drives from Mike down in Austin, who was running them on a PDP-1173, and they would have been using the Wombat controller to control these MFM drives. We can also see it says RSX BOM. That's interesting because they were using a custom spun version of RSX 11, and the company was BOMIM. So RSX BOM is RSX 11 that is been custom modified by BOMIM for what they need to do. Moving on, we've got all sorts of really fascinating stuff that is RSX related. I don't understand any of this. Oh, hey, you saw it here first. Programmers make better lovers. I can't dispute that. It's written right there, plain as day. I think there's probably some proprietary information hiding out on this because these drives were in service at BOMIM. I've got a backup of it in case there's anything fascinating on there that we absolutely need to save. But now that I have a backup of it, I don't think we need to keep the data on here. So if I can ever figure out how to get these bearings nice and quiet, we will format them and get rid of whatever programmers or better lovers that's hiding out on there. Next, I think I'm going to try and take one of these drives that doesn't work apart and see if we can see something obvious on the inside that's preventing it from spinning up correctly. So let me clear off the desk a little bit here and we'll get to that. This first generation CDC Wren is actually one that I picked up on eBay for like 20, 30 bucks. And I picked it up because I'd been looking for one of these for a while because I just think they're really cool looking drives. And it spins up, then spins down with the LED flashing. So I don't know, something's not right. Let's crack it open, take a look at the inside, see if we can figure out what's going on. Now, it's entirely possible that it's an electronics failure and not an actual failure on the inside. But if there has been a head crash and it's lost all the servo data, then that absolutely would cause the problem that we're also seeing. So, well, I just want to see on the inside of it. So let's crack it open and take a look at the inside. I've got rubber gloves and a hat on and I've turned the AC off, so dust should be small. So let's see if we can crack the top here. Pry it up just a little bit with the screwdriver here, see if we can break the seal. Yeah, there it goes. And then just carefully, not fully broken on that front right corner there. Yeah, there we go. I think now we're fully broken. Just come straight up with it, and there we go. And right off the bat, I can see that there is some damage on this top platter. That's not great. And looks like a little bit of oil down here. That's really interesting. Why would there be oil floating around on the inside of this? But that is a beautiful drive, my God. I hate to say it, but I don't think we have any other choice than to spin it up with the cover off. I mean, I think that's like a law somewhere. I'm pretty sure that's a law. Before you get super angry, keep in mind this drive already didn't work, and I'm seeing very obvious damage to the platter right over here. It might be hard to film because the platters are so shiny, but there's definitely a nick or a scratch or something in the platter there. But my thinking is that the heads might be stuck and not actually moving back and forth, and that's why it never comes ready. So we can confirm that by flipping the switch here, so here goes nothing. The head lock definitely clicked out of the way, so the head should be free to move. Boy, it sounds fine. It gets up to speed. Oh, the head's moved. So the heads are free and able to move. And if it's behaving like it was behaving before, it'll spin down now. Yep, there it goes. The heads went back to the landing zone all the way on the inside, and the drive is spinning to a stop. And honestly, I think what we're seeing here is we're seeing that damage on this top platter preventing the drive from becoming ready. And I don't think there's any way to fix that. I'm afraid that we're not going to be able to bring this one back to life, but still, that was very cool to see. This is another CDC drive that I got on eBay for, I don't know, about 30, 40 bucks at the time. I guess it was about a year, maybe two ago when I bought this one, and it spun up, but it never really seemed to work right. And the Gesswein emulator sees that it's been selected, it spins up, it stays spun up, And even the drive itself goes ready, but the Gesswein emulator never receives an index pulse, and if it never receives an index pulse, it's never going to do anything right. That could very well be an electronics problem. It could also be that the servo platter has a crash on it and it's just not sending the correct servo data. I don't know, I'm only $30 invested into it. It already doesn't work, so let's crack it open and take a look. All the screws have been removed, so we'll give the top cover here a little bit of a pry, see if we can crack it loose. Oh yeah, there we go. We're making progress on that. I'll do it on this side too. Oop, there we go. The top cover is fully loose. Oh, wow. I mean, I was expecting a lot more discs and a very different construction, but that is dramatically different. Oh, that is so cool looking. I don't see any obvious crashes on the primary platter here. I do see what looks like potentially a little nick all the way up here, but I don't think that would be causing the problems that we're seeing. And again, it's the law. I have to spin it up. My hands are tied here. I've got no other choice except for to flip this switch and watch the cool platter spin. There they go. The drive sounds good. I heard a click. The heads move. Everything looks free and like it's working. I don't see any obvious reason why this drive should not be detectable, why it's not putting out an index pulse. And that could be because it has a electronics fault on the controller board on the bottom. And that might be something that we can fix, but that would require finding schematics for this exact drive, which is not gonna be easy. All right, we'll pull one more drive apart, and that's gonna be this RD52, which is just a rebranded ST506. It's a 30 megabyte drive, I believe, and it's built by Quantum, and it's got this really weird kind of band that goes all the way around the drive and holds these clamps in place, and I have no idea how I'm supposed to take this thing apart. I don't know, this might be a bit of a struggle here. Getting the band off was definitely difficult, and y'all didn't need to watch me struggle with that for like 20 minutes, but with it off, we can now take these clamps that go around the four corners here off, and then we should be able to get the cover off of it and see the platters inside. Ooh, I'm excited about this one. All right, we'll see if we can crack it loose here. Yeah, that's already pretty loose. There we go. And yeah. And I have an idea why this one wasn't working. I could hear something loose inside of it, and yeah, look at that right there. That piece is loose. That's been just floating around inside of this drive for a while. You can see the glue, I think it sat right on there like that, and you can see the glue has just obviously let loose, and it looks like it has some indicator markings on it, so that might be forward end of travel and rear end of travel or something like that. So if we can somehow affix that piece back on, this drive might come back to life, because otherwise it looks really clean in here. I can see some scratches on the top here from probably stiction of the heads, which is not great. But that's how it goes. Well, y'all know what has to happen next. I have no choice here. I have to do it. So we'll flip the switch. There it spins. I saw the heads move ever so slightly. That's fascinating. It's got this kind of arm that looks like maybe a brush. Whoa. The heads move with so much force. I saw the entire drive shift position a little bit. I think the heads may be moving with that much force because it doesn't have the plastic piece that's supposed to indicate where it is in travel. Other than that though, it sounds really clean. Let's spin it down. And it sure is a lot more graceful spinning down. I don't know, man, maybe we can salvage this. The problem is that the alignment of that piece is going to be critical. And if I get that alignment wrong, even by like a few microns, we're never gonna be able to get the data off of it, but we might be able to write new data to it, potentially? I don't know. Let's at the very least, give it a go. We got nothing left to lose. I'll just slather a little bit of industrial adhesive onto the arm, and honestly, I think this has about as much chance of working as the Cowboys have of getting to the Super Bowl this year. But we might as well take a swing at it. I'll just slide the little plastic piece carefully into place and let the glue grab hold of it. You're supposed to let this glue cure for 24 hours, but it's been an hour and change, and that's probably not enough, but I'm gonna give it a test anyways because it's a pretty low inertia piece, and I'm really curious if this makes any difference. So we'll go ahead and spin the drive up. So the drive has spun up. I'm expecting the heads to move here shortly. They moved a little differently. I don't think the drive is going to spin down. I mean, it wasn't spinning down before. So let's do an analyze on the Gesswein emulator here since I've got it plugged in. We'll do a ./MFM read-A. Found drive at select 1, but again, we're getting this weird message. Drive selected without select is J3 20-pin cable reversed. It's not right fault, not seat complete, not indexed, but we do have a ready signal. Something else is going on here. Well, you heard it here first. The Cowboys ain't gonna make it to the Super Bowl this year. Let's shift gears over to the noisy ST4097 next. I want to separate the drive itself from the electronics. There are 4 large rubber isolated screws that hold it to the frame. Then I'll remove the 2 screws and the power panel on the back, followed by 2 more screws to get the front panel off. It's a nice design with the LED sliding into a socket, so it's easy to remove. This gives access to this plate here, which has 2 screws holding it in place. And with that plate out of the way, we can then remove the ribbon connector that goes from the drive to the electronics. There's a second ribbon connector off to the side that we need to remove too. And finally, with a little persuasion, the 2 halves come right apart. This is the first time I've pulled the electronics off a drive, and it was actually surprisingly easy and absolutely fascinating. This thing is all through-hole technology, which I absolutely love to see. And well, the electronics are fantastically complex. We have some LM339s. I imagine there's a lot of analog stuff going on because of the analog nature of flipping bits on magnetic material, but we've got these 2 massive ICs over here. No clue what they are. Looks like we got a ROM right here, and who knows what else on the board underneath it, because there's 2 boards sandwiched really tightly together here. But what I'm more interested in is what is creating that disgusting squealing noise that we're hearing. And you know what? It might not be the drive bearings at all. It could be just this grounding strap, because it is disgusting. It is very, very filthy. So I think I'm going to pull this grounding strap off, give it a clean, sand the contacts on it, and then put it back together and spin it up and see if that cures the noise. There are just 2 screws holding the grounding strap in place. With both removed, it slides right out easy peasy. And look how gross that is. I imagine this is what was squealing. I'll hit it with some electronics cleaner and try to wipe it down, but this stuff is aggressively disgusting. I'm gonna need something with a little more oomph. So brake clean and a wire brush it is. Finally, I'll hit both the strap and the nubbin on the drive with 400 grit sandpaper to really clean them up. All back together, and I'm a little skeptical because I did actually bend the grounding strap a little bit. I was getting a little too aggressive trying to clean it up. That's how gross it was, but also I didn't realize how thin it was. So hopefully I didn't make anything worse, but let's give it a shot here. Let's flip the power on. Can you guys not hear that? It's totally silent. This was the one that was screaming so bad that I think I'm gonna have to put a notch filter in because it was just unbearably loud. And here it is, silent, exactly like it's supposed to be. That is, oh, that's awesome. This is a good drive. The data read off of it just fine. We were able to fix the noise. I think this can go back into a system and be used as a 70 megabyte ST4097. Did it just spin down? It just spun down. I don't... Oh, man. Always double check your work, folks. I don't know if you can see that, but see how there's something a little shiny right back there? That's because this plug is a dual row plug and I have it off by a row. So half of the row isn't even plugged in and the other half is plugged into the wrong part. Hope that didn't cause any permanent damage, but we will unplug that and plug it in correctly. I may have injured something by getting this incorrect, so that is a mistake I will not make twice. Cable fixed, let's plug it in and see if it spins up and stays spun up here. I'll just go ahead and plug the Molex connector into the back here. It is spinning up. It's so much quieter. I should have done that before I had to live with it forever. Okay, so now we just play the waiting game. I do actually have the Gesswein MFM Emulator connected up to it and ready to go. So if it doesn't spin down, I'm gonna do an analyze on it and see if the drive still looks healthy. It still appears to be spun up, so we'll do a ./mfm underscore read-a. And hopefully we see some information here. Yeah, there we go. All right. All right, drive RPM looks good. Found drive at select 1. It's stepping through the cylinders. That means this drive is working. We have actually repaired this drive. It sounded horrendous, but now it's working perfectly. That is epic. Well, if you ever had any questions about how to turn a 10-minute job into a 2-day job, I'm your guide, because it would have taken us 10 minutes to pull the MFM drive out of the Rainbow, back it up, and be good to go. And here I am 2 days later with, I don't know, nothing much to show for it. These two drives were the ST4097s that we actually got good clean data off of. You know, the programmers make better lovers drives. And these are good to go into other machines. So these are excellent. We have 2 fully working drives out of it. These 3 over here spin up and then spin down, LED flashing. Something's not right. Could be electronic faults with it, could be, you know, something else. Could be a crash on the servo platter in there or anything like that. So I'm not really sure how to troubleshoot those. These 2 in the center though are the interesting ones. The RD52 here that had that little plastic piece that had broken off long before I ever got the drive. And I think as soon as that plastic piece fell off, we lost the alignment with absolutely everything, including the platter that has all of the index data and the sectoring data and all of that information on it. Once you lose the alignment on it, it's never gonna work again. So I think this one is now just decoration. This Wren though is one that I really would like to get going because I'm a bit of a CDC fanboy, and also I think it's the most attractive looking one of all of these, and I just don't know what's wrong with it. It spins up and it spins back down. So maybe someday in the future we'll do a full episode dedicated to this drive and try to figure out exactly what's going wrong with it, because I don't think it's been too destroyed aside from the damage that we saw on the platter, which I don't know, that could be the actual problem. It's hard to tell. I'll have to do a little more research on that. But at the end of the day, we had some great fun playing around with drives, cracking the lids open, looking at the platters spin. And we also have 2 fully functional ST4097s that are quiet and work perfectly. So all in all, that was a pretty good day. So I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode.